Welcome to the virtual talk session. My name is Raz Sharizan Rindu. I am an undergraduate student from the University College Sabah Foundation in the Faculty of Multiculturalism, Development Studies and Multiculturalism. I am the moderator for the event this evening, and joining me is co-moderator Mazuri Diki. We have a keynote speaker, Dr. Dede Otomo, and a guest speaker, Megan Stephen, who's a transgender woman based in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. Mazuri, before we begin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mazuri Diki. I am a practicing lawyer here in Kota Kinabalu, and I will be co-moderating this session together with our Ras. Yes. Back to you, Ras.
Interesting. Yeah, right. Interesting. We have a lawyer. Maybe Mazuri can provide her legal perspective on this matter during the Q&As. Right. Just a reminder to the participants. Please switch off your microphone while the presenters are speaking, just so we can avoid any interruptions during the session. And we have a Q&A session in part 3. In part 1, our keynote speaker, Dr. Dede Oitomo, is going to present. And then part 2, we have a conversation between Mazuri Diki, the co-moderator for this event, and Megan Stephen, transgender woman based in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. So again, switch off your microphone. And I think we should begin now. Pak Dede, are you ready?
So we're gonna start right away with my presentation. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like to say anything briefly? Introduce yourself, perhaps.
No, I'd just like to thank Raz and Mazuri and and Sarata for initiating this event, which is kind of one of my favorite topics, actually. And it's good to see everyone. I think I know some people from the name, so hello. And hopefully we could interact later. We can interact later during the Q&A. Back to you, Raz. So if you could just show the presentation.
Dr. Dede Oitomo is
Your voice is fading, unfortunately.
Right. Is it okay now?
Now it's okay.
Right. To those who are not familiar with Dr. Dede Oitomo, Dr. Dede Oitomo is most known as a the trailblazer for the gay community in Indonesia and in Southeast Asia. He is the founder for Gaya Nusantara Foundation, and he's an educator, an independent scholar, and an activist. So without further ado, Pak Dede, you're in for your presentation.
Yeah, let's have it on the screen. And I'll okay. So good afternoon, selamat petang, everyone. Selamat sore. I think this started when Raz actually said hello to me on Instagram, direct message. I guess he took part in a similar conversation I had with people in KL, and the idea was to raise the issue of the rich diversity in gender and sexuality in the Malay archipelago, in our archipelago. And so without further ado, can we have the next slide, and then the next one too? The next slide is just the name of the event. Yeah, so I mean, it's the host of the event, and then let's go to the next one. Next, okay. So now it's established in the literature that actually everywhere in the world, people have been discovering the long and rich history of gender and sexual diversity. Certainly in our region, there's these two books. There are many more, but these two are examples of the history of gender and sexual diversity in the region. When I say history, it doesn't mean that it stops. It's probably here and there, probably underground, and there's also modern contemporary, what do you call it, manifestations or of the diversity. Jadi keragaman gender dan seksualitas itu sudah diakui oleh dunia akademik. Of course, there are people who refuse to even touch this topic. So we have to bear that in mind. But these two books, dua buku ini are examples. The first one is Gender Pluralism by Michael Pelez. Actually, that book talks a lot about Malaysia, West Malaysia, East Malaysia, all the way to the turn of the 21st century. So I recommend that book if you want to read more. The second book the title is Indonesia. I think they're trying to sell the book to a wider audience, but actually it's about the Bugis people, gender diversity amongst the Bugis people in South Sulawesi. And I think Sabrina, the president of Serata, had some Bugis ancestry. So and I know in Malaysia the Bugis are, they are nomads in a way. They go, or migrants. They go all over the place. So, yeah. So that's another one. Untuk yang hanya bisa baca bahasa Melayu di Indonesia, sudah ada terjemahannya di Google saja. Nanti pasti akan ada. Ya. Okay, next. Yeah. So there are 5 types. Ada lima jenis keragaman. Yang pertama yang sederhana saja itu hubungan homoseks. Karena slide-nya sudah dalam bahasa Inggris, saya pakai bahasa Melayu atau Indonesia ya. Jadi orang bisa mengikuti. Ada hubungan yang dikenal. Mungkin agak disembunyikan sekarang, tapi dikenal, dan ini penting dalam pembicaraan kita. It's important in our conversation that not everything that I talk about is widely in the open. But if you dig below the surface, if you talk to the right people, you will find out about them. Dan hubungan ini juga diakui juga sebetulnya. I mean, again, if you talk to the right people, they will admit, yeah, we have that. So let's look at one example from, I think, next slide, please. Yeah, from Minangkabau, West Sumatra. So if you read the literature of Minangkabau, or if you talk to people who are older, maybe the younger people don't know anymore because Minangkabau has changed. But up to the 80s, there are still people writing about this connection. This relation, but called Induk Jawi, Anak Jawi. Induk Jawi means mother cow, Anak Jawi means calf. It's the relationship between an older man and a younger man. usually in the context of living in the local mosque. This again has changed, but it used to be that when you reach puberty, as a boy, you have to leave your mother's house. For your information, Minangkabau is matrilineal, so it's the mother's line that follows. So so boys then would spend the evenings in the local mosque, sleeping there, studying and everything. Also practicing what you see in the picture there. It's in Minang, it's called basile. In Malaysia, it's sorry, in Malay, it's bersilat. The kind of martial art. Again, if you talk to people who know Minangkabau, they will say, yeah, it used to be like that. These days, probably there's fewer and fewer. Although of course there's contemporary relations now in West Sumatra. Although West Sumatra as an area is very much against gender and sexual diversity, unfortunately, mostly because of puritanical Islam, and we will talk about it in the Q&A later if people are interested. So that's one example, West Sumatra. Next slide, I think there's another example. Yeah, this is yang berbahasa Indonesia pasti tahu pesantren ya. Ini Islamic boarding schools in Java and Madura, at least, maybe in Lombok, maybe in southern Kalimantan also. There is a relationship called mairil. It's between males, and there are 3 types of relationship. There's actually a relationship between an older student and a younger student. It's not only romance and sex and everything, but when you live in a boarding school, you have to cook for yourself. You need to study the holy texts or other knowledge. Jadi mereka itu menjalin hubungan. That's the first type of mairilan. The second one is a bit naughty. So when there is a new guy, a new boy coming in, the naughty boys sometimes they actually it's not really nice. Actually, it's actually rape. It's sexual abuse. Yeah, I mean we have to be honest about it. This is not all fine and dandy and beautiful. I mean the relationship that in type 1 are usually very romantic, and the two boys when they become adults, they would get married usually, but then they would still be very close because they used to love each other. Yeah. And the third one is actually between Ustad and their students. So this, I mean, if people are interested, this book is available. But again, it's something that if you approach the wrong people, they will say, oh no, they sometimes deny it happens, but talk to somebody who has gone through pesantren, and they will say, yes, it happens. Not everyone is involved, but it's there, and depends on the pesantren. But it's taken more lightly than if a boy actually has a relationship with a girl. Now if that happens, there's a no-no. I mean, in this traditional setting. Next, there's also the female counterpart of called in Java. It's called mbak-mbaan. Mbak is in Java is the term of address for another young woman, sometimes older. So mbak-mbaan is a relationship between 2 females. It's also common in the pesantren are segregated. there's males only, females only, and so Ma'an is the female type, you know. Or the people use the Arab term, the Arabic terms. Ada istilah bahasa Arabnya sihak atau musahaka. Again, some authorities in the pesantren would say, "Oh, this is negative," but others would say, "Oh, come on, these are just young people." But some actually continue after they're adults, and you might actually ask, you know, what about trans boys and trans girls? Yeah. Officially, there's no place, but there's I mean, one of these days you might want to invite this guy who's a trans man who's studying in the UK right now, but he actually grew up in the pesantren, and he's accepted by his parents and also by his community. His name is Amar, by the way. One of these days you should get Amar to speak. It's I mean, a practicing devout Muslim trans man, and also there are also trans women. I mean, there is a pesantren in Yogyakarta, very famous, called Al Fatah, and maybe you could also have a session with them to understand, you know, what is it like. So it's special, but it's growing. So other places are now having, you know, small pesantren for trans people, because when you're trans, you're not always accepted. Jadi orang-orang transgender susah kan kalau di yang biasa. Tapi ada kiai-kiai, nyai-nyai, ustadzah yang bisa menerima. If people are interested, we could talk about it in the Q&A also. Next, please, silakan berikutnya. I think that those are the examples. I'm not sure if there's any more. Sudah ya, oke. Tipe 1 hubungan biasa saja, tapi bukan biasa, tapi ada dalam konteks apa itu, kehidupan di masjid, dalam konteks apa itu, pesantren. Nah, yang kedua ini itu hubungan homoseksual, umumnya antara laki-laki, itu dilembagakan, institutionalized dalam konteks pencarian kesaktian. So let's go to the example. I think there's only one example for this. Next. Yeah. I don't know if you have ever heard of Waro, or maybe you've heard of Reok, the performance, which looks like in the one in the picture. Yeah. So there's these dances, and so the people who, I mean, those shirtless men, they are the Waro, and in order to, I mean, it's a bit sexist actually. In order to get their kesaktian, their prowess, they avoid sex with women. I mean, they could be married. They could be married, but during the search for prowess, they would refrain from sex with women, and instead they would have sex with boys. And it's something that is institutionalized, known. You don't just get any boys. I mean, there are actually matchmakers, and then you have to. I mean, the older man needs to ask for the hand of the boy from the parents, and should actually provide something like the use of a rice field, or some cattle. You know, some cows, or usually cows, you know, for to work the field. So and there is almost like a contract. This is known in the region called Ponorogo, which is in the southwestern part of East Java. But actually, people from that area, I'm not sure about East Malaysia, but they have been migrating to West Malaysia. So people in West Malaysia, in fact, there was a row at one point about reok, because some Malaysian groups said, "Oh, this is our culture, our art," and then some Indonesians were offended. But actually, what happens is that there are people on the division between Malaysia and Indonesia is political division, but culturally, we probably closer together. So, but the idea is that it's in the search for prowess that you refrain from sex with women, and instead you have sex with boys. In the literature, as you mentioned, there are women warok. Jadi dalam literatur disebutkan ada sedikit, tidak banyak, tapi ada warok perempuan. But nowadays, again, if you go to Ponorogo and if you immediately ask, it's going to say, "Oh, tidak ada, tidak." Or they say, "Oh, well, we have cleaned it up, sudah dibersihkan," but not entirely true. It's more complex. So we're going to talk about this pembersihan. I mentioned it. So the realitasnya itu bisa diakui, tidak diakui, ditutupi, dibuka. Nah itu nanti kita bisa bicarakan. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the third type. This is about gender diversity. And again, it's about sacredness. It's part of religion. Of course, it is indigenous religion. But actually, agama Bugis is a syncretism, is a syncretic, is a hybrid, faith or belief system that combines indigenous Bugis religion and Islam. Of course, the puritanical Muslims don't like this. They prefer people to be, if you're Muslim, you're just one kind of Muslim. But the reality is it's there. But let's look at the example in South Sulawesi amongst the Bugis. It's the institution called Bisu. The Bisu are medium priests or priestesses. See, English becomes a problem when because the Bisu is the fifth gender. You don't know. We don't know if it's a priest or priestess or priestess, whatever. But here's the idea. Number one, Bisu, because the Bisu are the only people who can communicate with the gods or goddesses, because you don't know the gender of the deities. Because you don't know, you have to have all 4 genders. Now, notice I mentioned 4. Jadi supaya bisa berkomunikasi dengan ilahi, dengan dewa-dewa, dewi-dewi, dengan dewata, itu harus berpenampilan keempat gender yang ada di budaya Bugis. Let's look at the 4 genders in Bugis culture. Yeah. So the usual woman and man, Makundrayo Rani, yes, is to be expected. But then there is Chalalai. If you are a girl and you're born, you're assigned female at birth, but then you feel you're lebih pas, lebih tepat jadi seperti anak laki-laki. Then you grow to become a chalalai. And in traditional Bugis culture, there is a place for that. And the other way around, you are a chalabai, a transgender woman. So Megan, if you go to to Bugis land in South Sulawesi, they will immediately say, "Oh, chalabai," right? And the amazing thing is that in the epic of the Bugis people called Lagaligo, they say it's the longest epic, ya, itu epos terpanjang yang ada di budaya manusia. Some people call it the Bible of the Bugis. the first two humans, who are brother and sister, they were sent down from the heavens, and they were accompanied by 28 bisu. Yeah, all, as mentioned, 28 bisus of the 4 genders. So there are female bisus, there are male bisus, there's trans bisu. Yeah, so of both kinds. Again, the problem in South Sulawesi is that it is not always recognized. Although, and by the way, the bisu I mentioned is there to communicate with the gods. The bisu in the old days, when there are sultans and amongst the Bugis, especially in the Sultanate of Bone, the bisu would be on the left-hand side of the sultan, and then there is the Tuan Kadi, the imam, the Muslim cleric on the right-hand side. So Islam is there, but in communicating with I suppose with the old gods or the old deities, you need the bisu, and then the bisu also take care of the heirlooms called arajang. Jadi pusaka, pusaka of the Kesultanan. Only they can do, because they're clean. They don't have relations with other genders, at least officially. You might ask, do they really keep it? Some do. Some do actually. And actually, these days, if you Google bisu, you will find these things. I mean, there's so much written about them. What's interesting is that when people go on the Hajj, kalau orang naik haji, sebagian orang mereka ada acara-acara yang Islam, sesuai dengan Islam gitu ya. Tapi dengan agak rahasia, diam-diam mereka sudah undang bisu. Ketika ditanya mengapa undang bisu, ya siapa tahu dewa-dewa yang lama mungkin nanti mengganggu, sebaiknya diminta izin juga gitu. So it's something that is interesting. Of course, it is not recognized. Yeah, it is not recognized. For example, in 2014 to 2019, the Vice President of Indonesia, Wakil Presiden Indonesia, Pak Yusuf Kalla, is orang Bugis. But I don't know if he's. I think he is aware of these things, but will he admit? We don't know. Yeah, it's politically not cool, or it might be a liability. Mungkin merugikan kalau diakui itu. Okay, so that's one example. But there are many other examples. How am I doing with time? Maybe I should just mention one other example, and the rest I'm just quickly mentioning. Next slide, please. So similar priests or shamans are known among other Southeast Asian groups, ethnic groups. The Toraja Pamona, for example, this is also in South Sulawesi and Central Sulawesi. They also have a similar institution like the bisu. And then, because we're talking with people from Sabah, we should remember the Borneo tribes, the Ngaju Dayak, and I found a reference of the Murut. I believe this is a group in Sabah, also in Indonesian Kalimantan, and also in Sarawak, also amongst the Iban. So they are. But they tend to be just transvestites. I'm not sure if it's maybe they described incorrectly, but at least they're men who dress as women, and they're called Balian, Pelian. It's interesting. The names are similar, and I'm not sure. Maybe some people who are here could share their experience with this. So somebody is raising a hand.
Hi, Dede. I'm
Yes.
Stuart. Actually, I'm the Iban tribe. Actually, I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
It's one of our gods. I forgot her name. But
Okay.
actually, what happened is that he literally changed his gender in order to save his his brother. He's one of
okay.
he's
So
one of
thank you
the
for sharing. I mean, yeah. We'll talk
yeah.
more in the discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, very good. So I mean, I was hoping somebody would actually know this. So there's all these stories, you know, in the different cultures. Let's go to the next slides rather quickly. Next, please. Next. Yeah, this is Bali. Now this is actually about more about intersexuality. So the supreme deity of Bali called Achintya. No, don't go that fast. Let me explain a bit about Achintya first. I don't know if you could see that they. I mean, again, these days, you know, when somebody is of two genders or two sexes, then you probably use they. So they have a penis and a vagina. That doesn't happen in real life, okay? We know that about intersex people. I don't know if there's anybody who's intersex here who would like to explain later in the discussion. But interestingly, if you ask modern day Balinese people now, they will say, oh, I don't know. I mean, so it should be noted that some of these things have been silenced or buried or ignored or whatever. Next example. I think we can skip the next one because it's also about intersex. This is one of the most powerful figures in Javanese shadow puppet stories. Let's skip some more. If people are interested, we could go into next, please. Yes, next, please. This is Hinduism. Shiva is one of the important gods in Hinduism, and his consort is Parvati. Jadi Shiva dan istrinya Parvati. Sometimes they become one. Oh no, not yet. Belum. Yeah, okay. So you notice on the left-hand side, Ardhanarishvara has the breast of a woman, of a female, but not on the right-hand side, it's the body of a male. So this is and I think there are a few organizations in Southeast Asia and in India which use this name Ardhanari as the name of LGBTIQ plus organizations. Yeah. Next. You can skip the next. I think that's yeah. Let's just skip the next. Okay, the fourth one. I'm including it in the Malay Archipelago. This is Melanesian. This is commonly known in New Guinea or Papua. You know, Indonesian Papua and Papua New Guinea, and not in all ethnic groups, because there are about probably 500, 600 groups in Papua Island, but in some of them, there's male-to-male sex as a rite of initiation. Basically, that's what it means is that for boys to become men, it is sexist. Sorry, women. They have to be cleaned from the female fluids, milk. You know, what do you call it? The blood that the fetus got fed in pregnancy, and then they have to be fed with male fluid, and you can guess what the male fluids are: semen. And actually, many cultures in Melanesia, not all, but many are called semen cultures. Semen is put on food to make it healthy. Semen is put on a baby's forehead when he or she is not well. Usually, it's the father's semen. So, in a way, it makes sense. You know, semen is so important because it becomes human. I mean, together with the ovum later. So this is something that we we shouldn't forget. So there is a good compilation of next, please. Yeah, this is if people are interested, you could go to this book, and it's not a new book. It's been around for, but the literature about these Melanesian cultures is actually quite rich also. So that's I think it needs to be mentioned. Next, please. I think this is. Then we go to the fifth type. Yeah. So this is gender diversity or homoeroticism. I mean, note that I don't always use homosexuality just like that, or transgender, because these terms are new. They're from now. But the phenomenon, the practice was there, and it has always been there. So let's look at the performing arts. I think that only just 2 examples. Next, please. Yeah, this is in East Java, in my province, Ludruk. It's nothing strange in performing arts. The Shakespearean drama, it used to be that the female roles are played by men. Ludruk is the same. I mean, traditional Ludruk, women are not supposed to be on stage. Again, the problem with these diversity practices, they are a bit sexist sometimes. So it shows that it's actually constructed in patriarchy. So it's called Ludruk in East Java. It's not very old actually. It's only been around for less than 100 years. It's still around, but it's been marginalized even in East Java. But there's still the heyday of Ludruk is in the 60s, but the idea is then and then as you know, are these trans women as we know them? Some are just there for the performing arts, but others and it's actually quite complex. Maybe I should share an anecdote. I think we still have some time. Once I went with 2 anthropologist friends to visit a Ludruk performance, right, in some rural district around Surabaya. I was late, and so I got a ride on the back of a truck with somebody who was supposed to be the main actor of the Ludruk. He's a guy, and without me asking, he would say, "Oh, Mas, saya nggak ada hubungan sama warianya Ludruk. Ya. I have no relationship with the trans women in the Ludruk." I didn't even ask him. So I just said yes to him. That is at 7:30 p.m. 9 p.m. I went backstage, and lo and behold, the gentleman was cuddling with the most beautiful trans woman actor. He was a bit embarrassed, but hey, it's so here's the front stage, backstage. What can be known, and things like that. So we could discuss that later. And just one more example. This is Sedati. Now, Aceh is, as you know, is a very homophobic, transphobic province. You can get caned 100 times if you're caught. Sometimes you're not caught. I mean, people, your neighbors just go into your house, and you happen to be wearing no shirts, and they accuse you of being gay. They use the word gay. It's interesting, right? And there's no lawyer, and so usually the 2 guys would say yes. Sometimes 2 women. And then immediately they were taken to police, and then of course they would be prosecuted and punished and everything. But interestingly, if you read at least the history of Aceh, now I don't read Acehnese literature. If there's somebody in the audience who reads Acehnese, I mean, I'm really keen on discussing this. I mean, I have a friend whose father is Acehnese, but he grew up in Jakarta. He doesn't read Acehnese. But Sadati, according to the anthropological literature, has poetry that is homoerotic. I mean, for those of you who are familiar with Urdu poetry from Pakistan, I know that Urdu poetry can be homoerotic. So the contents is actually male to male love and things like that, and it's danced by men. But of course, if you go to Aceh now, you've got to be careful. If you ask that question, you might actually be caned. So, but I think. I have to mention that, and actually Sabrina from Salata also has Acehnese ancestry. We could talk more about Aceh later. I think that's it, and then we go to my question. I think. So my question to the audience, and I don't know who would like to answer it. Or we could discuss it later. What has happened when there's the rich diversity up to maybe the 19th century? And then nowadays, you fast forward to nowadays, there's all these, terrible, there's these terrible, homophobic, transphobic policies, statements, certainly, suggestions. I mean, you may be aware that Malaysia and Singapore both have Section 377, and Singapore, in Malaysia, in Singapore is Section 377A. I mean, Mazuri, you must be familiar with these two so-called sodomy articles. These are left over from the British. Yeah. So what's going on? And nowadays, some Malaysian, Singaporean, Indonesian also politicians say, "Oh, this is not us. This is not our culture." Yeah. So in a way, what's going on? So if people would like to at least try saying something about this, or we could discuss it together later. Thank you. Terima kasih. Next is a terima kasih slide. Okay.
Right. That's it. Apologies for the delay on the transition of the slides.
Yeah, I thought it was something technical.
It's raining heavily on my side here, Pak Dede. So anyone would like to try to answer the question that was posed by Pak Dede? Anybody can try. You may raise up your hand. Anybody, you may speak in Bahasa Indonesia, Bahasa Malaysia, English. All right. Maybe that's something that we can discuss during the Q&A.
It's something to think about, yeah, and when we can discuss later.
Right. So moving on to part 2 of this session, I would like to bring our co-moderator, Mahzuri, and Megan Steven. Megan Steven is a transgender woman based in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah. This is your opportunity to to hear her experience as a trans woman living in Malaysia. So Mahzuri, whenever you are ready, and Megan, this will be a conversation between the both of them, yeah? So.
Okay. Thank you, Ras, for the introduction. And then, yes, I'm Mahzuri again. Yes, thank you for still staying with us. So now I'll be talking to Megan. Megan, are you there? Is everything okay?
I'm here. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Yes. So, Megan, okay, before anything, do you mind sharing a bit on yourself, and also what is your pronoun?
Okay, so I'm actually a trans advocate, a activist. I based in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, and I would like to be pronounced she and her, because my gender identity is a transgender woman. So, yep, I dress up as a woman. I identify myself as a woman. So I would like to be called as a she and her. So pronouns is very important. As we all know that pronouns, it is something that portray, reflect a person, and it's okay to call people, it's okay to be wrong, at the point. But after knowing a person pronounce, it is better that you correct it fully. It takes a person to change, get used to it at least 44 days. So you can't expect people to, to change by a day only. So yeah. So pronounce is very important for me too, because it's show that you respect me, I respect you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Megan. Yes, I do believe that pronoun is something that people would like to highlight nowadays, because to properly address a person, you must actually know them, what they want to be called and what they want to be identified with. Yes, we respect that.
Exactly.
In society, we must respect that. Yes, okay. Megan, as a transgender woman in Malaysia, could you please share your experience in Malaysia as a transgender woman?
Okay. As a transgender woman, I actually started my transition when I was 16, but a fully transition when I was at the age of 19. Okay, but before that, I'm talking about the sexual harassment that I faced before. So there is, at the age of 18, I'm concerned about my health. I wanted to keep myself beautiful. I want to keep fit. And I jogging literally every day, 5 in the morning. So 5 in the morning. And my mom told me that you're not supposed to be go jogging, it's too early to go for jogging. And there is this car, a red car, I remember, four guy inside. And they follow me already. They follow me for a few hours because I jogging for a few hours. And they follow me behind. I noticed them and then I try to avoid them. But apparently, tiba-tiba they keluar, they pop out all of a sudden. And three guys came out from the car and they just slammed me on the ground. One of the guy, they pinned me down, pinned my shoulder, I remember. Another one was on the top of me. Another one was holding my legs. And that moment I was like so scared. I screamed, I couldn't scream because they slapped me. And basically you being assaulted. And after that, I remember as well that three of them have a heavy alcohol, they smell alcohol, they smell like beer. And they sniff through all of my body, like that, like I don't know why, they just sniff through all of my entire body, and they touch my butt, they try to rip off my clothes. And I was like so hard, I was kicking so hard, I nearly cried, but I told myself I need to survive. And I managed to escape, to be honest. I managed to escape and I ran into my house, I was screaming for help. That moment I was just a shirt with the underwear because my pants is being taken off already by all of the three men. It was, and I lodged a report, but that moment I don't know what is, because I was 18 and I don't know what is rights, what is my rights as a human being. So I don't know how to seek for help. I just tell the police that hey, I being robbed instead of I being molested actually. So that is the incident that I couldn't forget my entire life. As a trans woman, how your rights being violated, and your body being assaulted. And for me, I feel, because I'm a woman and a man touching me feels like disgusting. Yeah, I guess that is one of my experience. Would you like to know more about my experience?
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. I don't know if I should thank you for sharing, but then that is a very heavy story. Yes, I'm taking time to hearing it. But then, okay, other than this sexual harassment, maybe you could highlight probably one or two briefly other experience in Malaysia, macam any keadaan yang membuatkan you think that as a transgender, you are being treated poorly. Macam kita transgender tidak dapat treatment yang sepatutnya. Any other aspect of.
Okay. Ada satu situasi, okay, di mana saya pergi interview. Is actually located in Sabah. So I was, you know, being interviewed by this potential owner and a potential of my boss probably, but he answered, you know, when he interviewed me, I don't know what you call it, the sass word, or he just you know, insult me with one sentence is, I rather hire a stupid girl instead of a smart transgender. And I was like, oh, what, just because of I choose my gender identity, I don't know how to work, you know, I'm not capable of working? I was like, I don't know what to do, because I was at an interview, you know, he probably being my potential boss. So I was just like, stood at him. I was like, I don't know what to do. I was speechless and I walked away.
Yeah, it looks like transgenders
are
having difficulty
for looking for work, looking for job.
Yes, looking for jobs. That is your livelihood is at stake. I think that is very bad, considering we say that Malaysia is a very progressive country. To see this kind of bad treatment towards different gender, you know, it is heartbreaking to know. But then, okay, let's U-turn a bit to your sexual harassment, Megan. So how do you deal with gender-based violence, or have you ever experienced other kind of gender-based violence as a transgender? Yes,
I do. Okay. One situation that I would love to share with all of you is, especially, I used to work as in a hotel marketing company as a customer service, as a reservation as well, and I am good in talking. I guess that was back then, was like 4 or 5 years ago. I was in KL, so I was working as a customer service, and people like me because, you know, people like the way that I communicate, the way that I talk. And that is one situation that I encountered is my customer, he called throughout the phone and he sexually moaning throughout the phone call. You know, it was like, so I opened a loudspeaker, to be honest. It's not just first time, it's a few times. You know, he moaning like he masturbate, or you could call it jerking, throughout all of the phone call. And I couldn't quit my job. You know, I love being a customer service, but at the same time, for a trans woman to look for a new job is not easy, you know. And how many times that I have been rejected, you know, because of they prefer that I stick to the sex that I'm being assigned on my identification card. You know, it's really difficult. They just want me to stick back to become a man, to become a male. And I would like to stay like this. You know, I think that I'm presentable, I'm not ugly, and I talk in a good way, you know, I'm friendly, you know. But yeah, things is not easy for trans women, to be honest.
I think the two experience that you shared is just the tip of the iceberg. I understand. I wouldn't know, but then yes, I understand that would be very hard for you. Okay, then Megan, coming back, you are an advocate for you are a trans advocate. So would you mind sharing how do you do your advocacy? Is it confined in KK or Sabah throughout Malaysia? Probably. Could you explain a bit more?
I do my advocate. Actually, I will start posting a video about transgender capable to do a lot of things as well. Transgender as well, can be handy as well. You know, a woman can be a handy woman, man can be a handy man, and I believe that trans woman can be handy as well. So I posted a video, and then being discovered by a friend of mine who worked in the RTL. That back then I was in KL. So I pop up on TV, and then yeah, since then I started my advocate in 2014. Was on a live show, but after the live show, I did lower down a bit my profile. Is because of I being slammed, you know, not just on social media. People, I used to, saya pernah kerja di kedai haiwan. So, ada customer, dia nampak saya, dia cakap, oh, Anda bukanlah influence yang baik. Anda membawa image yang buruk. And I was like, I don't know you, and all of a sudden you came in and you just slammed me, you know, because you are the one who pop out on the TV, isn't it? So you are the one who being bringing the bad influence to my kids. I wouldn't ask my kids, you know, to watch the reality show. It's because of you. And I was like, I didn't do anything. I just telling that I'm bringing the positive vibe, you know, I'm bringing the positive vibe towards the society, towards all of the Malaysian. And all of a sudden I'm being slammed, and I was like, yeah. But then I lowered down a bit my profile, and in 2016, something like that, yeah, I regained again. I become more active on. I used to be talking in TEDx, you know, TEDx, and then I share my experience through TEDx talk that was held by a INTI college and a lot of colleges, but TEDx is one of the most things that I remember. And a lot of institution, you know, education. And yeah, I think that is how I started my advocate. And to be a good advocate as well, I would say that stop being defensive, you know, and stop being so defensive. I know that a lot of activists, a lot of advocates, they know what is right, they know what is wrong, they know the law, but to educate the society, it takes time. Like I say, it takes time. It takes 44 days to change a person, you know. But you know, stop being so defensive and being so kind. You know, like myself, I guess, you know, Parama is what we want in the society. You know. Instead of you being defensive, people as well will become defensive. If you're being defensive, I'll be defensive as well, isn't it? Yeah, so stop being so defensive.
Okay, thank you, Megan, for sharing your experience as a transgender in Malaysia, and also how you do your advocacy. It is very, I respect you for taking a bigger step to be a bigger person, because memang kita perlu untuk memupuk kesedaran dalam masyarakat. I think kita memang perlu masa. Kita perlu lebih banyak orang yang lebih terbuka hati untuk berbincang, untuk berkongsi pendapat, benda begini. And then I, as on my personal view, I say, you go girl, yes. I mean, and then never stop lah. I hope you will continue with your advocacy system, and then we will be supporting you. Then on the legal perspective, or not so legal, I'm just saying that what you had experienced as a transgender in Malaysia, I think you are indeed being deprived of your rights lah. So basically kita punya perlembagaan persekutuan, kita ada rights, kita ada hak sebagai seorang individu. We are always an individual first, before our gender, before our religion, before of our skin color and everything. So kita memang dijanjikan kita punya hak-hak dari perlembagaan persekutuan, dan sepatutnya ada apa-apa peruntukan undang-undang sepatutnya tidak bercanggah dengan Federal Constitution. Federal Constitution should be the highest law of the land. So I think to be better equipped with the law could protect you. We should know our rights, and then the people should respect our rights juga lah under Federal Constitution in terms of your life and liberty, your equality before the law, and then your freedom of movement, your freedom of expression. Yes, this is all comes hand in hand when you are dealing with your livelihood. Your rights must be protected at all times. Yes, but that is just briefly on the legal side. It's just I humbly believe that your rights should be protected because it is ensured under the Federal Constitution. But then to further discuss on the legal perspective, I think we need to call more experts. But then that's all from me and Megan. Megan, thank you very much. And then there's nothing from me and Megan. Then I'll give the floor back to Ras.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mazuri, and thank you so much, Megan. Wonderful discussion. So now it is time for questions and answer session. So participants, if you have any questions, raise up your hand, or you may time your. Now I think I should start with the first question while the participants think of something to ask, either to Pak Dede or Megan. So my question to Pak Dede is this. There has been a great debate whether or not sexuality is a lifestyle choice, whether it is natural or whether it is a lifestyle choice. If we look at headlines all around the world, religious authorities claim that something is wrong mentally with those who do not identify themselves as cisgender or heterosexuals. So now what they're saying is they would like to, they are offering religious education against the will of the individuals in hope that they would return them to the right path. So my question is being gay really is a lifestyle choice, or perhaps, or so on. If being gay is not a lifestyle choice, then how would one explain the phenomena where couples in the past who identify themselves as heterosexuals, as straight, but only now that they identify themselves differently, they're no longer straight, but they could be lesbians, gay, pansexual, bisexual. Is being gay a lifestyle choice, or does that has anything to do with, or perhaps sexuality is fluid? What is your take on that, Pak Dede?
I usually compare sexuality to language. This is, you know, the discipline that I started with before I went to sexuality and gender. You know, as a human being, you have the capacity for language, right? What language you come out you come out with depends on your community, depends on your experience, you know, I mean, what you're exposed to and things like that. It's the same thing with sexuality. If I throw myself back to, I don't know, to 19th century Java, what would I be? I would probably be somebody who's like a teacher or something. I would probably be married because that is the thing to do, right? So, but as somebody who's a baby boomer, I have the kind of luxury of not getting heterosexually married. Yeah, so we have to look at each period, at each social construction around us. So to call it a choice is a bit is mistaken, because it's not really your choice. I mean, there's a drive inside you, but then how the drive is manifested is something else. So even now, in certainly around me, there are young men, young guys, who have sex with other men, and then they think that once they reach the age of 30 or something, they will get married. So what I mean is that the meaning of heterosexual marriage is one. The meaning of recreational sex with other guys is another one. And don't say that these guys don't have love for other men. They do, but it's just that in their construction, it's not available. Whereas in my construction, I could tell my parents, no, I'm not going to get married, and they find it's okay. Yeah. So it's I don't know if I'm not answering your question, but it's being gay, being lesbian, being trans is sexually constructed. Sorry, it's socially constructed in the manifestation, in the practice. But deep down there's something that is like language. It's the capacity to be sexual. Yeah. So now your example of somebody who's married heterosexually, right? And then at a certain age they form a relationship with the same gender. You know, in social research, you have to do careful interview of these people. When they were married, maybe they already felt, you know, the sexual orientation, but it was not available then. And as they grow older, then they become more confident about their actions and stuff. So bottom line is that sexuality is complex. Gender is complex, and then I think we should refer to Masuri. I mean, this is then we go into the legal human rights aspect. Whatever whoever I love or whoever I sleep with is my right. The state or other people have no right to tell me you shouldn't do that. And why? It's my life, right? If I sleep with somebody else's wife or somebody else's husband, that's something else. Yeah, that's something else. That's adultery. But if I do it out of my free will, yeah. And then the science. I mean, you know, it's been. I mean, my reference is always. I mean, I think it's as a lay person who's not a medical person, who's not a biologist, I would refer to the WHO International Classification of Diseases. And the latest edition have taken off, I mean, gender dysphoria from mental disorder and put it in sexual health. So in fact, if somebody wants to transition and they are prevented from doing that, then it causes problems. So actually, it's society that is wrong in preventing people transitioning if they want to. Yeah. So it's as Masuri said just now, makan masa ya, makan waktu. Some people are slow to change. Some people don't want to read. Some people are slow to, and then politicians if they are too progressive, they might not get voted, right? At least in Indonesia, it's the case now. You have to sound conservative. So yes, I guess we just hope, for now, we have to help each other. That's my long answer for your question, Ras. I think
Right.
somebody,
Thank you so much, Pak Dede.
somebody
I would like
raised
to
their
bring
hand.
Fazar. Fazar, do you have any questions to either Pak Dede or Megan?
Oh, hello. Hi.
Hi,
Okay. I think I'm going to switch off my video, right? So,
it's okay.
Yeah. okay. Now, I am living in Borneo, in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah.
Okay.
And I was recently asked if I had any input to say for Sabah on the gender equality issue. And this is for, I think, a march that is going to be organized for Women's Day. And I feel that for Sabahans, all right, we are not just facing the gender inequality, but the equity issue is a huge, huge problem for the, a huge problem for us, because we are given so little space in Malaysia as a whole. We are often forgotten. We are always the people who are just there to fill in the blanks. So I feel if there's sincerity to what is this, to address the issue for the women in Malaysia, for example, there should also be the hands reaching out to those people who are less fortunate as well, because those in the urban areas, it's somehow your issue. We are facing the same things here, right? But it's even worse. It's like a double whammy of everything that we are facing there. But when it comes to equity as well, and also for our voices to be drowned, to be not seeked, oftentimes, I feel when earlier on, like Masuri was talking about, the Constitution is supreme and all that, but we are very much not what is this? It's something that we don't have hope for, because a lot of our people, they're not aware of that they have voices, that they have a right, that there is such thing as even gender inequality, because like I said, the gender equity and all those, it's a big problem here. So I feel that if there is sincerity to make a change, do better with gender equality, perhaps do not be selective and do not forget the voices from the rural areas, because the percentage there and the kind of problems they have could be even bigger. So when you're looking at the, to make things better for Malaysia, for example, if only the urban have got their voices heard, then you'll never be able to achieve what you want to achieve. I hope you get my point. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you so much, Fazar.
Yeah.
Mazuri, would you like to add anything on that? Or
No, I do agree with Sedatin Fazar, is it? Yes. Yeah. We need to be more
inclusive.
Yes. Then everyone, semua orang pun kena bekerja sama untuk, to make everyone lebih visible, to give that power to give that momentum kepada movement, to everyone must bekerja sama, because If we just put macam this group, then it's gonna take a very long time. The next generation is gonna suffer for sure if we don't do anything now. Yes, that's what I'm just gonna say. Yes, back to you, Raz.
Okay, Pak
Thank
Dede,
you.
would you like to add up?
A little bit. Yeah, I agree with Masuri. You know, people who are discriminated against, mereka yang didiskriminasi, tidak bisa menunggu. You have to remember it's their lives. How long do you want to wait? Until you're 80? Or I don't know. So any chance you could join, you should join. Then Fasa just now mentioned the Women's March. It's not easy in every region, like in my experience in Indonesia, is just involve people. I mean, try to convince people that there's not only two genders. So the example from the Bugis culture is usually very powerful, that our ancestors recognized 5 genders. Who are we to actually insist on just 2? Where do we get the 2? Probably from the West, actually, right? So there's the argument, and at least try to include people. And at the end of the day, yang paling mendasar adalah setiap orang ya harus dibela, harus diadvokasi, siapapun dia. Kalau dia, I mean, I don't know. There must be some young people in Sabah even who are like this. But among my students, there are people who say, saya tidak tahu gender saya apa. Saya tidak mau digenderkan. See, I don't want to be gendered. So saya gender queer atau saya gender free. No, you can't join the march just because you're you know. And increasingly there are young people around me who say that they are non-binary. So they say, oh, I'm not trans. So I know someone who sometimes on their Instagram look like a guy or like a man, but other times, you know, they look like a woman. Sometimes look in between. So who are we to tell people to be X or Y or Z? Right? I mean, I haven't, you know, I use the pronoun he. I think I'm a man, but there are, I mean, in Bugis culture, I will be Chalabai actually, because I sometimes think like a woman. There are certain ways that I think like a woman. I'm not all, but yeah. So why do we have to be so fixed with these things? And so that's my response to Datin Fazar.
Okay, thank you, Pak Dede.
I think you missed my point. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think you missed my point. It's okay.
Okay. Maybe Megan could.
Anybody else would like to share?
Yeah, I think I would like to add on is towards is women's rights. I am one of the women's rights as well, to be honest. And I was there in 2019 in Sabah. Apparently that certain society, a certain organization, they decline or they unrecognize trans women or LGBT as a women. You know, especially the TERF ideology, which mean that, you know, trans exclusionary. They think that trans woman is not trans, you know. So yeah, they think trans women is not women because we still consider masculine. We still consider you know, we have the strength of a man, and which, you know, which make that our society, to be honest, our society in Sabah mainly as well, there's still a lot of turf ideology, so that they doesn't recognize trans woman as a woman. Or maybe I can say, other than turf ideology, is gender ideology, which gender ideology is that it just we have men, we have women, we don't have other gender. That's all. And I just simplify it. Yeah.
Okay, I think sorry, may I say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Please.
No, I think this is where kita lagi perlu get more people involved. Like Megan was saying, like Sabahans and all that. This is what I meant. Ini maksud saya ya. Kalau mereka yang di dalam luar bandar tidak what is this, encouraged to join in the conversation, they are not aware of what is, gender even. Actually, baru-baru ini we there was a training for gender study for political leaders. Would you believe that a lot of the political leaders, the young women, did not know what gender meant, and their political leaders what gender equality was. So I mean, coming to that, what Dede was saying, yeah, sebagai wanita juga kita, we are always what is this, judged, like when we are a bit opinionated, we are called like alpha female, and we sound like a male, and they don't like us for being opinionated as well. So there's a lot of issues, and I think there's more talk and education that needs to be, and awareness that needs to be done, especially amongst the men too, not just the women, but amongst the men. That's this, because when we talk about this gender equality, even in this room, I think they're mostly women here. So I really applaud the men who, who are involved in the talk. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. Let's go to the next person here. Stewart, would you like to ask something or say anything?
Thank you. Fast is it? I would like to ask. I would like Ras. Sorry, my mistake. My internet is not that good. I would like to ask a question to Megan, and before that, I would like to comment that I really admire her. In fact, she's very a good friend of mine, even though she can be a bit harsh to me sometimes in certain things. But indeed, she is a good friend, and then I feel what she feels, whereby I try to get her to join my company. Then the first question that I ask, who is this girl? Why she looks so different? So I kind of feel what she feels, being discriminated in terms of job. And then I remember one thing she want to change, that the perceptions of transgender as a sex worker in Kota Kinabalu. I think not only in Kota Kinabalu, but in Asia as a sex worker. Transgender always associated with being a sex worker, and Megan is trying very hard to change that perceptions. That is why she worked very hard with a lot of NGOs and also others associations. So my questions to Megan is that, what have you done so far to help all these people, the transgender or any other community within your reach, apart from social media and being an advocate and also an influencer?
I don't call myself influencer. Okay. I always wanted to bring a positive image, and I think that to be a good advocate is we need to immerse ourselves, immersion, turun padang, mengenali antara satu sama lain, tanpa membuat spekulasi, tanpa hukum dulu, okay? So it's good that we stop being prejudiced first. Definitely there will, definitely, you talk with 10 people, must be 9 people is judging you. I couldn't deny that one. And you yourself, to be a good advocate, activist, you just bring out the positive vibe in you. And one thing about me is I don't look into the negative side of a person. I always look into the good, no matter how bad it is. Like, no matter how devil or evil he is or she is or whatever you call it, I always look into the good in them, because I believe that sooner or later, they will be, touched by my story, inspired by my story. They will like have a different mind, have perspective. They will be like open, an eye opening, we call it, yeah? It's difficult, to be honest. I mean, I couldn't deny. It's really difficult for a trans woman like me. And myself, not just writing articles, not just being interviewed by a lot of reporters, not just, I myself as well, joining a lot of NGO outside there, they always invited me to give talk, to be honest, I'm not really know a lot of all of the legal firm, all of the rights. I still learning. I'm willing to learn, it takes a lot of time. I have been in this human rights for at least 2 or 3 years, but until now, to be honest, I still know nothing. I'm still learning. I learn a bit. Of course, I do have the knowledge, but still gaining. I myself, it takes a lot of like classes. I would love to take a lot of classes, Yeah, and from there, I slowly, talking about my experience, sharing my thought, my experience, and without being so defensive. Even if I know the rights, even if I know the law, I never ever being defensive. I mean, unless you were my best friend, yeah, probably. I mean, if you're my best friend, yeah, like Stewart, so I'll be a bit, a bit defensive, but because they know me for a period already. But if you're just a friend, you started, to be a good friend, I'll talk in a positive way. But I'll be mean. I'll be mean if you are my best friend. Thank you, Stewart.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. Let's try to keep the questions and answers short so we can get to more participants.
I have a
Anybody
question.
else?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question
Right,
to Pak
Mazuri,
Dede.
go ahead.
Okay, Pak Dede, just now tadi kan kita sudah melihat presentation Pak Dede kan. Jadi dalam Pak Dede punya presentation tu memang banyak dari sebelum ni memang banyak gender ni tidak ter bukan hanya 2, dia ada banyak daripada literature lama. Jadi dengan semua pengetahuan ni ada sama Pak Dede, what is your hope moving forward? How do you hope yang with this knowledge, if you pass it on to the future generation, how do you want to see the world change? What kind of change do you want to see in the world? Yes, that's my question.
Okay. It's already happening actually, and I'm just one of many people who are working on gender diversity. But if you look at young people everywhere, they are learning from each other, often through social media, others through reading. Their readings, either their own readings or they learn in school. That not only is there like diversity in the past, but there is diversity even now. I mean, you just need to look around and you'll see people who are not exactly women or men only. And now there are so many terms. Yeah, I mentioned just now, I mean, not transgender is an umbrella term. There is non-binary, there is no gender, there is gender queer, etc., etc., etc. And you know, you turn you turn your head, and then there's a new term, and you keep learning. Yeah. I mean, if people are interested, there is for English, there is an Instagram account called, I think it's called LGBTQ something. I'll send it to Raz, and then Raz could to send it to the participants. And every a week or so, there's something new. So it's already happening. So my hope is that people will be intelligent enough to learn that, oh, why are we sticking to just two when in the past, especially us in Asia, we had all these different genders. I think Stuart mentioned the Iban God that the term changed gender. Actually, you know, in Chinese religion, there is Kuan Yin, right? The goddess of mercy. The goddess of mercy in India was a man. So somewhere on the Himalaya, they changed gender, they transition. And then if you read the Hindu stories, Vishnu at one point became a woman, and you even know Vishnu's female name. It's Mohini. And Vishnu and Shiva in the state of Kerala had sex. And out of the relation came a baby called Ayappa. So, and the temple of Ayappa is very famous among women who want to have children, who have difficulties. So, you know, if you're interested, there is about India. There's I mean, similarly, I mean, there's this guy called Devdutt Patnaik. I'll type his name in the chat box. And he is originally a doctor, but then he got tired of being a doctor. Yeah, there's his name. And he went around India and collected stories. So there are all kinds of stories. I mean, for example, the ancestry of Ram, you know, or Rama, was very, you know, very worshipped very, very highly in India. Ram actually came from the union of two queens. Now, don't ask me how two queens can have a baby. I mean, you don't have to go very far. Go to Christianity. You have the Virgin Mary. Yeah. So Mary is a virgin, although she gave birth. You know? I mean, my Catholic aunt says, "Oh, that's the first surrogate mother." Yeah. So it's you know, I mean, if you are if you're a believer, you would say, oh, it's a miracle. It's, you know, so why can't we accept? It is tough, you know, when suddenly, especially if it's in your own family, your child suddenly, you know, your boy suddenly, "Mommy, I think I want to be a girl." It's tough. At least, you know, I mean, parents and parents whose children are trans. I don't know about Megan's parents. They usually they accept these people, but they're afraid that the child will go through something difficult. But hey, life is not easy. So my hope is that, you know, with, I mean, this kind of talk, you know, I don't know, so people will get ideas, people will hopefully read more, and then, you know, and the idea, and if the government doesn't want to listen, we ignore the government for now. If the ulama don't want to listen, we ignore them for now, because there are ulama who are are okay. And if slowly there will be people in the government who would be willing to listen to. So it's a long journey, but we're doing it together. I think so. I think that's what makes us strong.
Right. Thank you, Pak Dede. I would like to bring Professor Dr. Junaina. Professor Dr. Junaina is actually my lecturer, teaching me development studies and multiculturalism at my university. Prof. Jun, would you like to ask the question to Pak Dede?
Yeah, of course. Pak Dede, terima kasih because you know, it's really interesting. I mean, I didn't expect that, you know, what you're sharing today is something that has been bugging my mind for decades, I think. But just to say that I cannot show my video too long because it's really a bad weather here, and
it's okay.
Initially I couldn't even hear what you were saying.
Oh,
so
I see. Okay, yeah.
To ask Ras to summarize for me. So can I stop my video and I continue? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we can still hear your voice.
It's a bad weather. I'm based in Kota Kinabalu. I'm at the Institute of Borneo Studies, but I'm also at the University College Yayasan Sabah.
Okay.
Okay. What caught my attention from your topic when Ras posted to me this talk of yours, it caught my attention on the framework that you use, which is very exciting. I'm sorry for the rest. This is very academic because as an academic, I'm taking this opportunity to really talk to you or discuss with you because talking about sexuality, talking about sexual preference or sexual orientation in Malaysia, it's among academics, among academicians in Malaysia is so difficult. It's like we cannot speak openly, but kita boleh, you know, like what the Sabahan say, kupi-kupi. When we kupi-kupi, then we can discuss this. So this is something that it really bugged me as a sociologist. So what I'm keen to ask you is the framework you use, Malay Archipelago, Nusantara, ya Pak? Nusantara, yeah. So my question here, basically the fundamental idea of your talk, how do you position your ideas of sexuality within the context of Malay Archipelago, Nusantara itu? What kalau ikut dari segi sejarah, tradisi, nation building of this side of the world, Nusantara itu ya antara apa ya, pulau-pulau, kepulauan, the Malay Archipelago, which means Borneo, Singapore, Malay Peninsula, and other islands. So you use this context untuk merujuk kepada what I heard tadi is you're very strong in your knowledge about explaining the diverse characteristic of sexuality in Indonesia, which sustain until today walaupun hanya mungkin sudah semakin bukan pupus, semakin tipis, but there are characteristic masih hidup dan masih diamalkan, especially in Sulawesi, which you explained. So how do you use this tool to look from your scope in Malaysia, for example? You know why it caught my attention? Because I think you mentioned a bit tadi about Malaysia, and just to share that, I think you know this, I'm very sure, Malaysia masih retain the colonial legal framework in LGBT activities, ideas, freedom, choice. Why? Because we still hang on to this secular law. And in addition, we have the Muslims, Islam, governed by the Sharia law.
Right.
There is a specific Islamic code against LGBT act. Add to this discrimination to the LGBT community, termasuklah di Sabah and Sarawak. I'm from Sarawak actually.
Yeah.
There is no, at our parliamentary or our political level, tidak ada satu attempt pun by both any ruling parties or opposition parties to support any reforms on legal aspect on the rights of the LGBT community. So to me, this is an institutional setup. So what interests me is, how do you look at this from your well, I don't know how you use it, from your scope of Malay Archipelago. Jarang-jarang ya kita guna Nusantara, very rare.
Yeah, where to start? This event is more about the history of an anthropology of the diversity, right? But I think you're getting us to look at the future, what to do, and this is where we talk about activism. Ya, kita boleh menggunakan apa ya sains ini dan berharap ada orang yang cukup cerdas untuk kemudian mau belajar. It is not safe, ya, nggak aman juga melakukan seperti ini gitu. Di Indonesia juga sama, ada ada university di mana orang bicara seperti ini dikatakan tidak baik gitu. Tapi kita harus kembali ke kalau di sainsnya, kita kembali ke sains. Seharusnya kita boleh bicara apapun dalam sains kan. Jadi kalau saya nggak tahu di Malaysia, tapi di Indonesia ada satu organisasi yang memperjuangkan kebebasan akademik. Dan ya, it's not perfect. I mean, banyak musuh-musuh juga gitu ya. Tapi tetap diperjuangkan. Jadi so you have to have hope. Now in terms of international pressure, the UN has several mechanisms. Those of you who are feminists must be familiar with CEDAW, you know, the Convention for the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. But there's also other ones. I mean, the one that Indonesia will be grilled this year is called the UPR, the Universal Periodic Review. Every country, and I've actually followed this from 2008 when it started. When it started, we didn't know much. Like Megan was saying, we're still learning. But now we are so organized. Yeah. And secretly, the foreign minister has asked the Ministry of Law and Human Rights to actually provide her, it happens to be a woman, with the answers when she is grilled in Geneva. Because the question is going to be, you know, Madam Minister, why is the province of Aceh caning people? That's torture. So when you're at the UN, there is no malu-malu, tutup-tutup. They will ask them, yeah, and and every country has to go through. So that's one. The other one, I think, for Malaysia, Singapore, everything, there is movement in the Commonwealth. You know, the Brits are actually feeling very guilty. They left this Section 377 or 377A in Singapore or 375 in Sri Lanka, and they're helping activists on the ground to pressure the government. In Singapore, there have been a few court cases. Masudi, you must be familiar with that. Malaysia, there's not much. And then there, you mentioned the Sharia courts. Amongst progressive Muslims, I'm not sure if you're familiar with people like Professor Aminah Wadud, for example, who happens to be living in Yogyakarta now. People like her are moving towards like queering Islam. So that's why I strongly recommend that, you know, Raz, if you have the time and energy, to invite my younger friend Amar, who's a transgender practicing Islam. He's a cleric. He is a Muslim scholar, like blue-blooded. I mean, I'm just somebody who learns from outside. And then you're gonna see, like, just ask him how his father took the fact that his daughter was transitioning to be a son.
Okay.
And his explanation was that must be the will of Allah. Who am I to reject Allah when it turns out that my daughter is now a son? And in fact, before he died, they became very close to each other, even closer. And in fact, it's a bit sexist. The father said, "Oh, now I have another son." So, oh, somebody, oh, Raz, you know Amar, you're famous.
Amar. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Anyway, but it's all kinds of people are working. I didn't expect to talk about activism, but there's so much happening, and I mean, if I may refer to a young South African lesbian, she was talking at the ILGA conference, World Conference in Bangkok, and she said that we young queer people are the new colonies. We are being colonized by our older people. Hopefully not the older people in this room. Yeah. So you have to decolonize. I think that's, I mean, and it is a bit academic, but basically you still need to be, to be free. In Indonesia, I usually call it the second kebangkitan nasional kedua. First, it was to be free, and that's still not perfect. Now, minorities would like to be free as well. I think Mas Zuri said, somebody like Megan, she's Malaysian, right? So why is the government not guaranteeing her rights? That must be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry for being lengthy, but oh, by the way, I mean, I wrote an article. Raz, you could share with Prof. Jun my article on
I'll share it.
Phobia, who's phobia. That actually puts the thing in. It's not very long, but it introduces you to my ideas. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Welcome.
Right. It's close to 7 now in Malaysia. I think we have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I would like to hear closing remarks from each of the speaker, and maybe Mazuri would be nice. Let's start with Megan. Closing remarks, Megan, in 60 seconds, perhaps.
I think that, if you want to be an ally, it's good that stop vilify, stop degrading, the minority. I don't want to say LGBT, but I say minority, so it would be much more proper. So stop vilify or degrade, don't participate yourself, talking bad about others. That is very important. Yeah. And respect, you probably doesn't agree with what they, them, she, her, you definitely wouldn't agree, but show that you reflect your personality and reflect yourself, a good person if you respect others. Yeah, that's all for me.
That's good, Megan.
Mazuri, before we go to Pak Dede.
Okay, 60 seconds runs. Okay, now, okay. Today I was sharing. It was very insightful. So everyone who has been listening since the start presentation of Pak Dede, and then we go to Megan. Then one thing yang I need to say here is like, kita kena terus belajar, terus mengenali satu sama lain, communication, do more dialogues, be engaging, because to change, we need to start now. Because someone told me the other day, if we don't change now, what are we gonna answer when our grandchildren ask, hey, why Nenek, why you didn't help us previously, why you didn't change this? So to educate, knowledge is power. We need to always trust that knowledge is power. So educate ourselves. So when we educate ourselves, we are more open to accept things and then we'll be more peaceful lah kan. Yeah, that's from me. And then thank you Pak Dede and Megan for the sharing. Yes, it's very insightful. I hope I can see you guys again.
Sure.
Final word from Pak Dede.
Yeah, I think we have to learn from the wisdom of our ancestors and to learn how we have been influenced by colonialism, by actually by the West then, and so that we don't, many people now they don't know about these things. I mean, I didn't know about these things until I actually came out and went into the library, ironically in the U.S. And learn from anthropologists. So it's our task, and then we use it for advocacy to build a better future for everyone. And and everyone, they're just humans. They might actually be different, but why? Who are we to judge? I think the Pope said that at one point.
Right. That's it, Pak Dede.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Before we finish, thank you so much to the participants. Thank you so much to Serata, the president of Serata, Miss Sabrina, for allowing me to do this. Also to Pak Dede, thank you so much for your willingness to do this. To Gaya Nusantara and Serata. To those who have yet to follow their Instagram page, you may just type Gaya Nusantara Foundation and Serata and please follow. More virtual talks coming soon. Thank you so much to the participants, and hopefully we can do this sometime in the future. Yeah, Pak Dede.
Yeah.
And thank you to Prof. Jun
Thank you.
for such great question there. Thank you. So we'll end this session now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.